All right, so now what we're gonna do is make our measurements on our mat board and get that mat board all ready for cutting on the mat cutter. I'm gonna move my computer out of the way in just 1 second so that hopefully I can keep everything within frame, but we do need to do one last step with our Magic Mat calculator, and that's gonna be convert our measurements back in to inches and fractions of an inch so that we can easily read our ruler to make those measurements. All right, so on my scratch piece of paper, I'm just gonna make those conversions really quickly. So my height measurement for the entire mat board height is going to equal 15.75. So that means 15 inches, and then 0.75 is 3/4 of an inch. So 15 and 3/4 inches, just like that. That's going to be the mat board height that I use. And the width, according to my calculator, was 18. 0.125 converts to 1/8 inch. All right, so that gives me the conversion that makes it easier to translate that to my ruler for the height and the width. At this point, I can move my computer out of the way and show you more of our mat board. So I'll move the camera just a little bit to ensure you all can see everything. Sorry for this movement. Let it focus. Perhaps I should have done this a little earlier. Sorry. Slightly higher. Okay, that should do. All right. So the first thing you want to make sure, even if you have a brand new mat board from the store, we want to make sure that it came to a square. The other thing that this step would do is if you get a corner that's just really kind of crumpled, it happens. Mat board is laminated rag paper. It can allow us to work from a cleaner edge instead of something that's damaged. My corners are fairly okay on this, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my steel rule, make sure I have an edge that's long enough, and I'm going to just pull its corner right up to the corner of my board, align both edges there and there to make sure that the edges of the mat board run exactly along the edges of the steel roll. And it's very slight, almost wouldn't need to worry about it. But I am seeing over on this left edge that when I really get the ruler lined up, the top is looking a little bit thicker than the bottom is. I'm sure you can see that well. So I'm just going to square it up. So to square it up, I'm going to keep my ruler or my steel rule very carefully aligned with the bottom edge, and then with my sharp pencil I am just going to make a new edge. So I will cut this off. When I get to the mat cutter, this edge that I've just drawn is going to be the new edge of my mat board, and this line is going to be the line that I make all of my measurements off of. All right? But once you've done that, you also want to make sure that you are working on the front. This will be the side that appears around your drawing. We're going to make all that, the measurements that we make right on the front of the mat. It means you, like I said, you have to have a very delicate touch and a sharp pencil, because we want to make sure we can later erase our marks, but it's much easier to see what you're cutting if you work on the front, and our mat cutters are set up to cut from front to back, so that's what we are going to do. It's just make sure you make as few and as clean measurements as you can along the way. Okay? All right, now what we're going to do is we're going to use our ruler, and measuring off this line, just indicate our height, mat board height, and width. So that's these longest measurements. All right. So our mat board height that we found was 15 3/4 inches. So we can come right up to this edge here. Align my ruler with the bottom. Measuring up, I find 15 inches and 3/4 is, so this is 1/8, 1/4, 3/8, a half, that's a heavier line, 5/8, 3/4, right there. All right, so I'll make that measurement there. I'll also go ahead towards the other side, align with the bottom. We'll use the square to actually connect it, but we like to cut once, measure twice is sort of the rule. And I will make a tick mark that shows me 15 3/4 inches on the other side of my mat board as well. All right. Then I'll go ahead and use my steel square. If you have a piece that is longer than your steel square, here's the trick. You line the short edge of your steel square carefully with that square line you just drew, and then you'll take your steel rule or your clear ruler. Sometimes it takes a little pulling down. And I'm getting the steel ruler to align with my tick marks and my steel square to stay aligned with the line I drew. Every step of this is a bit putsy. Patience gets you better results. When I'm ready. So this edge is aligned perfectly with the square edge I created in the last step. I have my steel rule aligned with the tick marks that I made. So now with a light touch, I'm going to make a measurement at 15 1/4. It reaches all the way across my mat board. I did that with a very sharp pencil and a very light touch. All right, I'm gonna do the same step for my width measurement. All right, on this one, yep, this is a 24-inch steel rule, so I can go ahead and use the steel rule to measure my width. Don't need a supplementary ruler if I don't want. All right, so I have my steel rule aligned with this edge. Make sure that you're using the lower edge of the steel rule the steel rule starts again at 1 inch, so you can get very kind of confused if you use the insides. To sort of prevent you from ever doing that, they put a little hole here, so it sort of is a reminder not to measure from that side. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure out 18 1/8 inch. All right, so here's my 0 inch mark. Come out to 18. Don't move it, Emily. 18 1/8 inch. I'll mark it right here. I'll also mark it along my top line. Again, aligning this steel square with that squaring edge that I created. Go, staying nice and square, coming out to 18 1/8. This will be easier if you're not trying to stay out of the way of the camera. I make it look a little harder than I need to. From there, should be able to realign my steel rule with either of my edges now, which are square. See how I hit those 2 tick marks nicely? And connect that line. There we go. So now this nice rectangular shape is the full scale of my mat board. In the next video, I'll show you how to create the window for that mat.